All right, what is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. We've got college football week 1 kicking off tomorrow. We're going to talk about the 6 games that I really like. They are listed right down below me here. So we'll talk about them in that order. So we will jump right in. But first, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We do baseball, football, basketball, you name it. Love all sports. So let's jump right into this college football slate. First game, Coastal Carolina at Jacksonville State. So Coastal Carolina. Line's been jumping between 2.5 and 3. So Coastal Carolina plus 2.5 or plus 3. It's an interesting game. So if we look at Coastal Carolina, 31-6 over the last 3 seasons. We look over last year, 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 games. But of course, this team has changed quite a bit. So their star quarterback, Grayson McCall, is now on NC State. So most likely we're looking at Ethan Vasco to be the QB for this team. If we look at the wide receiver, we've got Sam Pickney is gone as well. So they don't have a lot of depth there. They do have Jamison Tucker, so he's a bright spot. They've got Kendall Carr, who is one of the better tight ends in the Sun Belt. At the running back spot, they do have Max Balthazar out for the season. Doesn't really matter. He just sounds like a wizard, so I needed to throw his name out there. If we look at him, 43 carries, 211 yards last season, so not a drastic loss. Braden Bennett's going to be the primary ball carrier, and they also got Christian Washington, who is a New Mexico transfer, most likely backing him up. If we look at Jacksonville State, they've got Rich Rodriguez as the coach. I believe he was at West Virginia for quite a while. They have not announced their starter, so they are still waiting. It comes down to 2 people, Logan Smothers and Tyler Huff. It seems like both are going to play in this game. If we look at Jacksonville State, they are 4-1 in their last 5 games at home. If we look at Coastal Carolina, the under has hit in 7 of their last 10. A lot of the public money is on the under, so 67% of public money is on the under, 55% of bets is on the under. In terms of the spread, 88% of the money is on Jacksonville State to cover. I have to agree with the public here, so I am on Jacksonville State, ideally minus 2.5, but willing to go to minus 3 there. So pretty strong lean there. If we look at the money line, very similar story here. 83% of the bets, 93% of the money is on Jacksonville State to win on the money line. So we'll go JVS minus 2.5 if you can find it, but comfortable going minus 3 as well. All right, next game. We've got Minnesota taking on North Carolina. So Minnesota did lose to North Carolina 31-13 at North Carolina last season. Of course, that was an offense led by Drake May, who is obviously no longer with that team. So Minnesota has a very tough schedule this year. So they are in the much bigger Big Ten. So they've got 7 of the top 11 teams this year that they will play. 4 of the top 6 in the league's preseason poll. So a very tough schedule for them. 6-7 last season, but hey, let's give them credit. They did get in a bowl game because of their academic scores. So kudos for doing well in the classroom, gentlemen. All right, so they've got a new defensive coordinator in Corey Hetherman. You've got Darius Taylor, who is one of their star players. He is listed as questionable right now with a left-legged injury. Of course, last year he was he was limited to 6 games because of a leg injury. So we'll have to see, but he's one of those running backs that has been put on the Maxwell Award watch list. So if you're not familiar with what that is for the nation's top running back. So he had 799 rushing yards in 6 games last year. So probable to play, so most likely he will. If we look at Minnesota under PJ Fleck, who's their coach, they are 21-2 in non-conference games, so definitely bodes well in their favor. But they did lose some defensive capability. They lost a very good strong safety to the NFL. That said, they have a very good front, so their defensive ends are quite good. We'll have Max Brosmer at the helm at QB. So he's coming from an FCS school New Hampshire, where he did lead the FCS in passing yards per game. Has a hell of an arm, so kid can wing it down the field. If we look at Minnesota in home openers, they are 10-5 in home openers. They've got 2 wide receivers listed as questionable, as well as a tight end. So there is some question marks there. If we look at North Carolina, so they're led by Mack Brown. This is his second stint with the school. 4-1 in season openers. He did lose to Virginia Tech back in 2021. For them, their key player to keep an eye on is Omarion Hampton. He is their kind of star running back. He's a second-team AP All-American last year. Averaged almost 116 yards a game, had 15 touchdowns last year. Question marks really remain around this defense. They do have a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Collins. So Jeff used to be the former Temple and Georgia Tech head coach. So to me, I gotta lean Minnesota in this game. There's just too many question marks for me for North Carolina. How are they going to look offensively? How are they going to look defensively? So a little too many question marks for me. So my play here is I like Minnesota money line, or you can take the spread if you want to play it a little safer. The over has hit in 5 of the last Minnesota games. In terms of public money, we're seeing more of the money on the over. So 62% of money and 57% of bets are on the over. In terms of the spread, 59% of the money and 48% of the bets favor Minnesota. And on the money line, 76% of money is on Minnesota. So I guess I'm just kind of pairing with the public here. All right, next game is going to be Western Carolina at North Carolina State. So we just talked about Grayson McCall earlier. Obviously, he is on this North Carolina State game. Big spread here, 32.5. So Western Carolina is an FCS team. They got a pretty decent quarterback, Cole Gonzalez. He had 28 touchdowns last season. Likes to throw the ball. He had 30-plus pass attempts in over half his games last season. The bulk of this offense, so the core group is returning. So there's that. That said, do I think they stand a chance? No. The line's 32.5 for a reason. So that said, they have covered the spread in 4 straight games against the ACC, including North Carolina State in 2019. And the line has moved nearly a point towards Western Carolina. So this was at 33.5. So we are seeing some movement back. If we look at North Carolina State, should be pretty good. Obviously, Grayson McCall, we talked about him, a quarterback. They brought in a lot of offensive weapons around him. They got Jordan Waters from Duke. They got Hollywood Smothers from Oklahoma, Noah Rogers from Ohio State. You've got Casey Concepcion, the ACC Freshman of the Year, led the ACC in receiving last year. So lots of weapons. Should be a pretty solid team. That said, they have a pretty big game next week against Tennessee. So my thought is we should see them get up, and then I believe they start to just run the ball. I don't think they want to put too much on film for Tennessee to look at here. So I think they probably could get a pretty decent lead. Then we see Western Carolina kind of start to throw the ball down the field as some of the starters come out. So my best bet in this game is Western Carolina plus 32.5. I would not play this under 31. I think 31.5 is really the limit for me. I know a lot of folks are leaning towards the under, which I believe is 61 in this game as well, but I would rather take Western Carolina with the points. All right, next game. It is going to be Western Michigan at Wisconsin. So I didn't do a ton of research into this game, to be honest. This is just one where there was just a lot. It was an interesting one. 81% of the public money is on the over in this game. And I tend to agree with that. The biggest thing for Wisconsin, they just struggled with Mordecai as a QB, right? Any Luke Fickell-led team is going to be good defensively. It's kind of his calling card. So I expect them to be very strong defensively. That said, first game of the year, I expect a little bit of points. So I would say I would go with the public and go towards the over in this game, but not a horribly strong lean, but just something that stood out to me by quite a bit. And we see 82% of the money taking Western Michigan on the spread. So I would rather lean towards the spread with Western Michigan as opposed to taking the over-under. Like I said, we just don't know kind of what this Wisconsin offense is going to look like. I'd like to give it a game or two to see kind of how it runs under this new quarterback that transferred in. All right, FAU at Michigan State. So if we look at FAU, they're 1-4 in their last 5 as an underdog. They're 1-4-1 against the spread last 6 games. The under is hit in 6 of 9 for them, so that's pretty interesting. If we look at their offensive statistics, not great. They're basically right around 100 in almost everything. They're fairly consistent from last season, around 100th, right? From their scoring, red zone efficiency, third down conversions, first downs. They did okay in passing yards, 79th, 110th in rushing yards, 107th in yards per play, 62nd in turnovers, right? So a lot of things kind of working against them on the offensive side of the ball. Defense for Michigan State, pretty good. They were, I mean, not amazing, right? But they were, probably about 55th to 60th, right around there as an average. Offensively, they just didn't do a whole lot offensively. In terms of scoring, averaged 15.9 points a game. Their red zone efficiency was good, though. When they got in the red zone, they weren't bad. So tied for 32nd in that. But we should see a new kind of offense here that I think is going to churn. So for me, I would take Michigan State with the spread. That's kind of where I lie with that. But I like that a lot, actually. All right, next game. We've got Jacksonville State going up against University of Louisiana Monroe. This is kind of a weird game. Two very, very bad FCS teams. I mean, very bad FCS teams. Louisiana Monroe is still in rebuild mode. They only averaged 17.5 points per game last season. They're only returning 2 starters. So you've got General Booty, the greatest name in college football. I don't care who you are. He's the quarterback that's returning. They have no defensive linemen returning for this team. Jacksonville State should be able to keep into this game. I actually think they have a very strong chance of winning it. So one of my favorite bets, actually, kind of a weird one, but I love Jacksonville State plus 8.5. Give me that all day. I think, like I said, Jacksonville State has a very decent chance at winning this game. So those are my 6 favorite bets for the games tomorrow. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I'll be back to talk about some of the Friday games, and then we'll include some Saturday in there as well since it's such a big slate. Appreciate you guys, and I will catch you in the next video.